Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is the first part of my transfer search throughout the summer, and we're going to call this episode 5 Freebies to Find. Now, I know that the Gills have not released their own retained and released list yet, but of course, clubs up and down the country have been doing theirs. So I thought it would be rude not to delve into them and have a look to see if we could potentially find a handful of players who could come in and help improve the Gills for the 25-26 campaign. Of course, we understand this is a lot of estimating, as it always is, but even more so with the fact that we don't know who's going to be staying and going from the Gills. All we know so far is that Robbie McKenzie and Glenn Morris have both signed on the dotted line 2-year and 1-year contracts, respectively. Great news on that part. But yeah, it's that time of the year, isn't it, where rumour mill starts going into overdrive. So I thought I'd join in. We're not going to look at every single position because I think there are areas of our squad where we're stacked up. But yeah, just thought we'd have a look through some of these released lists and see if there's anyone who jumps off the page. My first pick is a goalkeeper who's just been released by a club that's going to be joining us in League 2 next season. So that might be your first clue. So bear with me, because I know I'm saying it's a goalkeeper who's played in a relegation side, but there is a tenuous link to Gareth Ainsworth as well, because he was his manager for a short period of time. London born, 31 years old. I'm talking about Jamal Blackman. Released by Shrewsbury Town. Played 27 times last season for the Salop. Contributed 5 wins and 3 clean sheets, which I know doesn't jump off the page, but he was playing behind a very poor team. But looking at individual stats, he played 90 minutes per game. I understand goalkeepers generally do. They're not players that are bought off for tactical reasons, are they? So unless they get injured or sent off, they're going to play 90 minutes. But it's always good to see that you've got players that are robust. 62% save ratio last season. I know he probably got a lot of practice, with the most respect meant. But yeah, 50% penalty save ratio, I think, as well. And 64 saves made in total. So you're looking at, a goalkeeper that was called into action plenty, but was playing his part in terms of trying to keep the ball out the back of the net in a team that didn't do very well and were relegated fairly early on in the campaign, relatively speaking. In terms of his career, though, he's played 271 times, 71 clean sheets, so you're looking at 1 in 4. Aren't you? 7 fours are 28, yeah, so just better than 1 in 4. So you're looking at sort of 12, 13 clean sheets over a league campaign, which I don't think's to be sniffed at. And yeah, he's accumulated 24,194 minutes of game time throughout his career, and he does play the full game when he starts. His average was 89 point something, but there must have been the odd fixture where he got brought off injured. But yeah, generally very robust, doesn't miss much football. I understand that Glenn Morris has signed a contract. But I think there are question marks over our other 2 goalkeepers, aren't there? Jake Turner ended the season out on loan at Dagenham and Redbridge. He might want to go and play and be first choice somewhere else, which is understandable. We might not want to keep him despite being under contract. And also young Tate Holton, who was very good against MK Dons and Cheltenham Town in the 2 games that he did play when Morris was injured. But still probably not quite first team ready on a regular basis, although Gareth did come out recently and say they'd have no issue putting him in. So it depends what route we want to go down. It might end up that we have Glenn Morris and Tate as the 2, and I'd be absolutely fine with that. But if we do want to go with more experience, I wouldn't look too much further than Jamal Blackman, 31 years of age, still got loads of petrol in the tank and games in the tank, and I understand he might want to be first choice, as would Glenn, but it's a clean slate and a new season, so why not let them bat it out over the summer to become number 1 come game day on the opening day of the season. So yeah, that's my first pick, 31-year-old, recent released by Shrewsbury Town, Jamal Blackman. My second position is right back, and people might look at me and think, well, why do we need to look for a right-sided fullback? Because we've got Romeo Hutton, who was much improved in the latter stages of the season. We've also got Robbie McKenzie that can play there, and young Harry Webster, who I was calling to be our first choice right back in the middle part of the season. Number 1 reason is I think we need 2 experts in each position. And the reason I say that is because it seems like forever since we had 2 genuine right backs competing with each other for a starting berth, and competition removes the risk of complacency, doesn't it? And number 2, leading on from that, I don't want Robbie McKenzie having to be filling in, because he's been so bloody good in the middle of the park, which is why he ran Glenn Morris so close for Player of the Year at the recent awards dinner. So that's my thinking behind looking for another right back. This man is 26 years old. He's recently been released by Blackpool. Can all cover at centre back as well. London born, so local to the area, relatively speaking. And his name is Jordan Gabriel. I think he was on Southend's books as a youngster before being snapped up by Nottingham Forest, I believe. But yeah, in terms of his stats for last season, he played 30 times. I think he started around half of them for the Tangerines, contributed to 12 wins, 3 assists, 4 clean sheets, played 47 minutes per game, which says he wasn't a regular. But he's still at a good age, can improve, could improve us as well. And looking at his seasonal stats, 74% passing ratio, 15 interceptions, 24 tackles, 60 ball recoveries, 65% of his duels won. So it means he's winning 2 out of 3, which is a decent rate. And yeah, he helped them finish 9th, I think, Steve Bruce's men. He played against us, I believe, in the FA Cup game in November at the Priestfield, where they beat us 2-0. Yeah, he's got good pedigree. Like I say, I think he's played games in the Championship for Nottingham Forest a few years ago. He might think he can still play at League One level, we don't know. But it's certainly a position I'd like us to have a look in and give Romeo some genuine competition. Certainly if Harry Webster is sent out on loan again to continue his development with proper football on a regular basis. 159 career appearances for Jordan Gabriel. He's amassed 10,048 minutes at 63 minutes per game. So looks like there's a good player in there. I like the versatility that he can play as a centre-back as well. So it gives you cover. Also means you can maybe play a back 3, which Gareth went with when he arrived in March. So yeah, that's my second pick, 26-year-old Jordan Gabriel. Number 3 on my list is a centre-back. And the reason I want to look at that position is, number 1, Gareth Ainsworth likes to have experience in that area of the pitch. He's had it when he's been successful with the likes of Ryan Tafazolli in his Wickham side that got promoted out of League 2. And he was very good in that team. He also had a left-back called Joe Jacobson who was vastly experienced. Just seems that Gareth wants the middle of his team, the spine, to be super experienced, to have that know-how, almost that nasty side to get through games when you're not playing well. So my first pick is a 28-year-old who's just been released by Barrow, born in Stoke. It's not a million miles away. We're not talking, you know, top end of the country. And his name is Theo Veldhu. He played in a Barrow side last season on 32 occasions and contributed 8 wins and 5 goals. Also kept 6 clean sheets and averaged 84 minutes per game. I like what Theo Veldhu could bring as a player. I thought he was good at Salford before he went to Barrow. I was surprised that Salford let him go, in fairness, but they had a good season. So, you know, Carl Robinson obviously knows what he's doing. But yeah, I think Theo can play as a 2, so in a back 4, and he can also play right side of a back 3 if you want to play that wing back system that Gareth Ainsworth implemented so well after arriving at the back end of March. So it would give us versatility. We also know that we've only got 2 centre-backs on the books at the moment because Maxime has been released. Connor Masterson is out of contract and we've not seen our retained release list, so we don't know whether he's going to sign on the dotted line again. So chances are we're going to need 1 or 2 centre-backs in through the door. And that's why I've gone with Theo as my first pick in that position. If you look at his individual stats from last season, 73% passing ratio, 32 interceptions, 26 tackles, 106 ball recoveries, and he won 68% of his duels. So again, it's just over 2 in 3 in terms of individual battles, which is great. And yeah, the average minutes per game, like I said, 84, means he doesn't miss football games due to injury or suspension that much. And it mirrors his career total. He's made 294 career appearances so far, and 24,221 minutes of playing time have been amassed at 82 minutes per game. So it's essentially the same as his seasonal average. Imagine when you play for teams that are chasing games, which all players are going to be playing in teams that do that from time to time, you get sacrificed because managers want to bring on attacking players to try and pinch a goal. So he doesn't miss football, does he? His individual stats from last season are solid enough. He's a threat at set pieces, isn't he? You know, he scores 1 every 7 looking at them statistics from last season. So if he plays every single game, you're looking at 6 goals from centre half, which is excellent. And I think he'd be better in a better team. And no disrespect to Barrow, I think we'll be a better team next season than Barrow were last. So that's my first pick at centre half. 28-year-old Theo Veldhu. My second pick at the half defence is even more experienced than the already mentioned Theo Veldhu. He's 32 years old. He's another one that's been released by Shrewsbury Town. Please don't jump on me. I don't want us to buy the entire relegated squad of Shrewsbury, promise you. But we're going to have to be clever with our transfer strategy this year, aren't we? We know that we've overspent and we've spent poorly as well. It's all right overspending slightly if you get promoted, but to be spending too much and finishing 17th just isn't good enough. So we're going to have to change the way that we go about our business. We're going to have to be slightly more savvy and slightly more clever. And I think this player is someone that we seem to have been linked to for at least the last couple of summers. London born, and his name is Pierre. And of course, he has links to Gareth Ainsworth. Played for him in that short period at Salop last season, but he did play for him for 3 seasons and was very good for him at Adams Park right at the start of Gareth's reign at Wycombe Wanderers, right at the beginning of that process that saw him promoted out of League Two and then eventually promoted out of League One into the Championship. In 24-25, Aaron played 33 times, contributing 4 wins. He scored 3 goals. There was 1 assist and 2 clean sheets. Now, I know them stats aren't great, and I understand you're going to be saying, well, why are we trying to buy people that have been relegated? But he's a League One player. We want to be a top-end League Two player next season, sorry. So I think it means that he'd certainly be attainable. I don't think it's unrealistic. He averaged 73 minutes per game last season, so he doesn't miss a lot of football again. And in terms of his individual stats, 55% passing, but Aaron Pierre for me is a bit more of an old school centre-half. He's a defender's defender, so I'm not too worried about that. He completed 20 interceptions, 53 tackles, 36 ball recoveries and won 57% of his duels. So again, he likes a battle. He generally wins 2 in 3. And he's made loads of appearances throughout his career for various clubs. Shrewsbury, Wycombe, Northampton Town, another one, I think Sutton for a short period. He's only 6 away from 400 career games. And in that time, he's amassed 31,722 minutes at 81 minutes per game. So again, he's essentially playing the full match when he is selected. Yeah, I like Aaron Pierre. It was one I sort of ummed and ahed over, I'm not going to lie, but I just think some players are suited to managers, and he was very, very good for Gareth Ainsworth first time around. So if we can get him in and use his experience and his leadership skills, then I think he might be a clever bit of business. So that's my second pick at centre-half. And my 4th pick overall, 32-year-old Aaron Pierre. My 5th and final freebie to find is in a more attacking role. So don't panic, we're not just buying those unglamorous players, the hard workers, those that do the donkey work and all the unnoticed stuff, although they are very important. I'm looking at a 26-year-old Bromley-born winger who has been released by Peterborough United. He spent time on loan in League Two last season. He is David Aboy. Very, very good for Sutton a few years ago, which earned his move to London Road. I think it's fair to say it's probably not worked out quite as well as Aboy would have hoped at the Posh, but I think there's still a very good player in there. He's direct, he's quick, he's tricky, he can create chances, he can score goals. He just occupies defenders as well, doesn't he? And how many times have we said over the last couple of years we miss pace and directness from wide areas, and we've got it a little bit with Aaron Rowe in the last few weeks of the season. We've not seen enough of it from Jack Nolan. I think Joe Bode could do it well if we decide he's a winger, but there still seems to be a question mark over whether Joe will be more suited to being a wide man or playing centre forward. In terms of stats last season, Aboy played for 3 different clubs, I think, and made 34 appearances. He started the season in and around the Posh squad. He was then on loan at York City in the National League and ended the campaign at Newport County. But in them 34 appearances, he contributed 12 wins. So that's not a bad return in terms of win ratio. There was 3 goals and an assist. Obviously, his minutes per game is not huge because he was playing at different clubs. It was 54 minutes per game. But if you look at him individually, 76% passing, completed 20 key passes in those 34 appearances, 61% dribble success rate, which means he's able to beat his man fairly regularly, 82 ball recoveries, points to the fact that he doesn't mind doing his defensive duties as well, and 20% accurate crosses, 1 in 5. It's League Two, isn't it? If it was 40, 50, 60, 70%, he wouldn't be playing in the basement division. But I think them stats are fine. He's made 270 appearances throughout his whole career and contributed 48 goals. That's 29 strikes of his own and 19 assists. Averages 66 minutes per game across 17,737 minutes of game time. I think he's just the type of player that we need. He's the type of player that will get people on the edge of their seats. He's the type of people that you want to come and watch. It gets you excited. I think he's one of them players where it won't come off all the time. There'll be times when he probably frustrates you massively, but I think he's one of them players that can win you a game in an instant, whether that's, a good ball into the box and setting up a winner, or, taking on a man and score himself. I remember him and the lad that got the hat-trick against us for Newport. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. They absolutely terrorised us that night when they beat us 3-1 at Rodney Parade. They were 3 up inside half an hour and we couldn't get near either of them. So yeah, out of contract, available on a free. My final pick in this 5 freebies to find is David Aboy. As you can see, if you've watched this far, we have not looked at all areas of the pitch so far. for various reasons. Left back, I didn't see anybody that jumped off the page, so I wasn't just going to pick people for the sake of it. I only wanted to find people that can potentially improve us at the end of the day. Central midfield, I think, an area where we're really stacked. We've got really good options in there. We've got the likes of Armani Little, Ethan Coleman, Robbie McKenzie, Nelson Kumbeni, all under contract. We've got Johnny Williams still under contract, albeit I'd like to see him play a bit further forward. And influence games in the final third, but I thought he was very good as an orthodox centre midfielder in the latter part of the season. So that's an area that we don't need to look at urgently at the moment, unless we move someone on, but I can't see it. Ethan Coleman was Players Player of the Year last season. Robbie McKenzie was nearly Player of the Year this season. Armani Little's our club captain. Nelson Kumbeni was only signed in January. And Johnny Williams, I thought, was very good towards the back end of the season. In terms of wingers, I think if Joe Bode is going to be used as a wide man, then we don't need to add more than just the one. We'd have him, we'd have Aboy if he was a player to come in, we'd have Jack Nolan and Aaron Rowe competing as well. And centre forward, I think it's an area that I want to revisit later on in the summer when there's potentially more options. We've got Elliot Nevitt, who probably didn't score enough goals, but you could never fault him in terms of work rate and effort, chasing down lost causes, pressing from the front, scored 5, probably could have got nearer to 10 with a bit more luck, should have scored his penalty against Bromley, hit the bar at Carlisle, I think had one off the line against Fleetwood, that's just off the top of my head. So we could be sitting here talking about a front man who's nearly at double figures, which wouldn't have been awful in a side that doesn't score loads of goals. Got Marcus Wiley to come back in for pre-season, haven't been out on loan. We don't know whether Gareth Ainsworth's going to fancy him. I liked what I saw from Marcus early part of the campaign. I think his movement and the way he approaches the football match is certainly synonymous with a proper number 9. He looks like a natural goal scorer, albeit it's a big jump from where he was at Enfield. Josh Andrews, if we can keep him fit. We've seen glimpses of the player we want him to be and hope he can be, but obviously there's a big question mark over him because he's barely played in the 18 months or whatever he's approaching that he's been at the football club. But we wish him well, and fingers crossed he can come in first day of pre-season strong and hit the ground running. And of course Joe Bode might be used as a centre forward. We still don't know, do we? I think the general consensus amongst the fan base is that he's better suited to playing wide, but he scored 2 goals that you'd say were proper strikers' finishes against MK Dons and Swindon. Albeit he then got himself sent off against them, but we'll forgive him that. So yeah, there's a few areas that maybe will become more available as the season goes on and summer goes on, and more retained and release lists become available. Or it might be a case that we look at people that are under contract. We can do that. We do have the funds there, hopefully. I think a lot of the budget from that first window comes back. But as always, if you're watching at this point, thank you. Please consider hitting that like button. Please continue to press subscribers. We're very close to 3,700 subscribers. Yeah, we'll have content coming out, obviously more sporadically than it is during the season. We've got goals compilation, goals and fans, that is for YouTube for the second half of the campaign. Myself, Reese and Jack will be back next Wednesday for the final Gills in the Pub episode of the season. And then of course, once we get the retained list from the football club, there'll be a reaction video to that, I'm sure, of sorts, which then means I can look at more targets. We'll have more options available, a bigger pool of players to look from because more clubs will release theirs as well. But as always, thanks for watching, thanks for the support, and most importantly, up the Gills.